Yes, it is.
Time to begin, a little past time to begin. Certainly grateful for everyone's presence this morning. Yes, and we're glad to have you with us. I'd like you to be back with us at any time that you can. It's great to have Brother Michael Shepherd with us to have our gospel meeting to preach the Word of God to us, which he does in such an effective way. And I look forward to hearing the things that he has to say. I suggested that the topic of sermons for him, and he declined to go down that path. So but I'm sure that everything that he has to tell us will be of great benefit to us and bring glory to the Lord's church. To begin this morning, we'll sing number 708. Number 708. Sing this hymn, and then we'll have a word of prayer for the first leaders in that. Walking in sunlight all of my journey, over the mountains, through the deep vale, Jesus has said, I'll never forsake thee, promise divine that never can fail. Heavenly sunlight, flooding my soul with glory divine. Hallelujah, I am rejoicing, singing His praises. Jesus is mine. In the bright sunlight, ever rejoicing, pressing my way to mansions above, singing His praises. Gladly I'm walking in sunlight of love. Heavenly
worship you, Father. We're indeed grateful for all the opportunities you provide for us in this life. We're so blessed to be called your children. We hope, Father, that we will never take the things that you've given us for granted. As we enter into this morning service, Father, we are mindful of all those that are not here for many reasons, Father, that need for sickness. We ask that you will grant those people a day of rest and a recovery of their health. Father, we pray for those that have made the choice not to be here. We pray, Father, we can say or do something that encourages them to make their life right and understand the importance of worshiping you and the importance of serving you every day that they can. Father, we're thankful for the speaker. We're thankful for Brother Shepherd and his ability, his desire to spread the gospel. We know, Father, that he is a great speaker, and we're looking forward to what he has to say. And we hope, Father, we can make application in our lives to help others, help ourselves, draw closer to you, and one day take it home to heaven. We pray, Father, for this meeting. May it be successful. May it be an encouragement to this congregation, to be a light to the community around us. Help us do all we can to promote the church, that we may be found faithful in your kingdom. Forgive us our sins in Christ's name. Amen.
Okay, for our Bible study period this morning, I want you to turn your Bibles to the first chapter of the book of Matthew. Let's look at something here. Matthew chapter 1. We recognize what this is talking about, Jesus Christ's genealogy. I would ask the question, how much do you know about it? The genealogy of King Jesus. We should know something about it since he's our Lord and our Savior. 400 years prior to the time we open up of the New Testament, we see that there was a period of silence there. God was not writing there, but he was still working. We recognize what was going on there. You got that 400-year period of silence. We see, first of all, that after Alexander the Great in 332 left this earth, he did not have anybody to ascend to his throne. So the land was divided up into four parts. His four generals, Lysimachus, who else? Cassander, Ptolemy, and who else? Seleucus. Well, we can recognize Isaiah's prophecy in Isaiah 9 and Isaiah 7. And of course, in the book of Malachi, we recognize his promise. As a matter of fact, the last few verses of the book of Malachi, that would be chapter 4, we see he talks about somebody that was coming that was going to pave the way for Matthew chapter 1. That was King Jesus the Christ. Now let's look at chapter 1, the book of the generation of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham begat Isaac. Isaac begat Jacob. Jacob begat Judas and his brethren. Judas begat Perez and Zerah of Tamar. Perez begat Ezra, and Ezra begat Abraham. Abraham begat Amminadab. Amminadab begat Nisan. Nisan begat Salmon. Salmon begat Boaz and Rahab. Boaz begat Obed and Ruth. Obed begat Jesse. Jesse begat David the king. David the king begat Solomon. Of her that had been the wife of Uriah. Solomon begat Rehoboam. Rehoboam begat Abiah. Abiah begat Asa. Asa begat Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat begat Jehoram. Jehoram begat Uzziah. Uzziah begat Jotham. Jotham begat Achaz. Achaz begat Zedekiah. Zedekiah begat Manasseh. Manasseh begat Armon. Armon begat Josiah. Josiah begat Jeconiah and his brethren. About the time they were carried away into Babylon. And after they were brought to Babylon, Jeconiah begat Salatiel, and Salatiel begat Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel begat Abiah. Abiah begat Eliakim. Eliakim begat Azar. Azar begat Sedek begat H begat Eliab. Eliab begat Eleazar. Eleazar begat Matthan. Matthan begat Jacob. Jacob begat Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom was born Jesus. Isaiah talks about, Genesis 3:15 talks about, Genesis 49 talks about, who is called Christ. So all of the generations, from Abraham to David are 14. All the generations from David to the time they were carried away to Babylon is 14. And from that period to the cross of Christ is 14, makes up 42 generations. Now, how many of us know or familiar with all of these words in Matthew chapter 1? Does it mean anything to you? Are you interested in it? Is it advantageous for us to know anything about it? Well, all of those questions have to be answered in the affirmative. Let me ask you this thing. Matthew talks about 42 generations. But if we were to look in Luke chapter 3, verses 23 through 38, Luke records 72 generations. What's the difference in that? Why is Matthew records 42 generations and Luke records 72? Why is that? Why is that, class? Did I see your head? is writing to the Jews. He is writing to an audience that's going to understand what he's writing about. He traces the legal line of Joseph, which is 42 generations. It's not a contradiction. Luke is a Gentile. He is writing to Greek-speaking people. You're going to find in Luke's writings, he's going to talk more about women. He's going to talk more about blood than any other the two synoptics or John. So Luke is tracing the bloodline of Mary. Luke starts with Jesus. He go all the way back to Abraham, past Adam, and goes all the way back up into heaven. So you have one, Matthew is writing to the Jews. You will find more directly about the Jews. You will find more about the prophecies of Jesus Christ in Matthew's writing than you will in Mark, Luke, or John. Matthew is tracing the legal line of Joseph. That's why he traces the 42 generations. Whereas with Luke, he is tracing the bloodline of Mary. You understand? He is tracing the bloodline of Mary. And he counts 72 generations. And you need to know that because that's very, very important. So one is tracing the legal line and the other is tracing the bloodline. Now let's walk back through it again. I'll walk back through it with you just a little bit slowly because there are some other things that we need to point out. The book of the generation of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. And Abraham begat Isaac. Isaac begat Jacob. Jacob begat Judas and his brethren. Judas begat Perez and Zerah of Tamar. Perez begat Ezra, and Ezra begat Abraham. Abraham begat Amminadab. Amminadab begat Naasson, Naasson begat Salmon. Salmon begat Boaz of Rahab. Boaz begat Obed of Ruth. Obed begat Jesse. Jesse begat David the king. I want you to stop right there. Now, in your NIV and your American Standard Version, 1901, what you're going to have there is a period and a paragraph. Now, if you're holding the King James translation, you're not going to have a paragraph there. And you're not going to have, you perhaps might have a period, but you're not going to have a paragraph. Can you tell me why? Well, in the language, this flags one of the great important events in the historicity of the Jewish race. And that's David the king ascending to the throne. Saul started off good king, ended up bad. That was the first king. David was a greater king. Solomon was the greatest king in bringing Israel to their financial affluence. Only their financial affluence. So here we have an indicator in Jewish writings that memorialize a great event in the history of the Jewish race. And that's David ascending to the throne. You got that? All right, well, let's progress further. So now, after David the king comes to the throne, David the king begat Solomon of her that had been the wife of Uriah. Solomon begat Rehoboam begat Abiah, Abiah begat Asa. Asa begat Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat begat Jehoram, Jehoram begat Uzziah, Uzziah begat Joachim, Joachim begat Achaz, Achaz begat Zedekiah. Zedekiah begat Manasseh, Manasseh begat Amon, Amon begat Josiah. Josiah begat Jeconiah and his brethren. About the time they were carried away to Babylon, I want you to block that off. Now, in your NIV and your American Standard 1901, what you're going to have there is a period and another paragraph. In the King James Version, you perhaps might have a paragraph and then maybe have a semicolon. I wonder why. First you got a colon, first you got a semicolon, first you got a semicolon, first you got a colon, first you got a period, first you got a paragraph. Why is that? Does it mean anything to us? Does God have this in there just for us not to study? Any part of the Bible? Is it there for us not to look into these things? Can we understand it? Would God leave a book back here that we could not understand? That's not the God that's revealed in that book. He left a book back here that we can understand. A proper approach to it, it becomes somewhat easy to us. So now, here is another monumental indicator, something that has been memorialized in Jewish history, and that is the time they were carried away into Babylon. You remember? They went into Babylon for how many years? 700? 70 years. So that's a monumental thing there that we see. Now, let's progress further. Once we get from the time they were carried away into Babylon, after they were brought to Babylon, recognized as Zerubbabel, and Zerubbabel begets Zerubbabel. That's interesting, isn't it? We'll walk back through these names momentarily. And just for the sake of time, we've already gone through the end of that. So now you have these 42 generations that is recorded by Levi Matthew. Now, when we look at this as well, we also see that in this particular setting, we start off with Abraham. Why is that? Because Abraham is the father of faith of them that believe. We're told in Galatians 4. We're told in Romans 4, and it's implied in Galatians 4. He's the father of faith of them that believe. There is more ink in the Bible about Abraham, Moses, and David than any other biblical character. Abraham, Moses, and David. Because the statue that these three men held in the historicity of the Jewish race. Abraham, Moses, and David. You see the whole book of Romans, those 16 chapters, are ate up with Abraham, Moses, and David. Acts chapter 2, you see it ate up, being referred to all of those prophecies that when Peter was preaching, didn't go forward to the New Testament, always went back to the Old Testament to prove something. So we see now the book of the generation of Jesus Christ, the son of Abraham. We all know about this great, great patriarch, Abraham. We see where he is categorized, chronicled, and that is in Genesis chapter 12, all the way through Genesis chapter number 25. There's two prophecies that the whole entire Bible hangs on. Nothing else. Genesis 3:15 and Genesis 12:1-3. How God is going to take care of man's sin problem in Genesis 3:6. But man sinned. How's he going to do that? He's going to do it through the prophecy of Genesis 3:15 and the promise of Genesis 12:1-3. Now the Lord has said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's wife, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation. I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse them that curse thee. And in thee, Abraham, shall all families of the earth be blessed. All families, not the Jewish nation. All families of the earth shall be blessed. We see that fulfillment, of course, in Genesis 3:15, Genesis 49:8-10. We see that fulfillment of Jesus Christ all the way down to Jesus Christ hung on the cross, shedding his blood for the sins of mankind. And that blood purchased the church of Christ. So we see now Abraham. Now that promise again was made in chapters 26 through 30 to Isaac. But it's so interesting, when that promise was made to Abraham, how many children did Abraham have? How many children did Abraham have, class? None. Not none. When that promise was made, Abraham did not have any children. Now, how is Abraham going to be the best nation from his seed when he doesn't have any children. Now, Ishmael comes along, but you and I know that Ishmael was not the seed of promise, was he? Absolutely not. And after Ishmael, then Abraham and Sarah is 90 and 100 years old, past childbearing years. But you know what happened in Genesis 22? God told Abraham to get up early in the morning, did he not? And take thine son, thine only son. Hold on, wait a minute. He got two sons now. He got Isaac and he got Ishmael. But Ishmael was not the seed of promise. Take thy son, thine only son. Get him up on Mount Moriah, Jerusalem. And I want you to cut that boy's throat. Well, hold on, wait a minute, God. If you do that, then how can Genesis 3:15 get into the word? The promise that you made, Genesis 3:15, the promise of Genesis 3:15, and then how is the promise that's going to be filled in Genesis 12:1-3? If you cut that boy's throat. We all know that story. I will not belabor that point. We all should know that story. And of course, how we know that Abraham's getting ready to kill that boy. Abraham saw that boy being getting up from the ground, according to Hebrews chapter 11, verses 17-19. And of course, God stayed the hand of Abraham. And now I know that you are the father of faith of them that believe. Nobody quite have that faith. That's why we refer to Abraham to try to emulate his faith. He's the father of faith of them that believe. So now we see Abraham beget Isaac. Isaac is the child of promise. In chapter 26-30, Isaac is the same promise he made to Abraham. Then, of course, we come to Jacob in chapter 31-36. Jacob, now he received that promise. Then, of course, we know Jacob's going to have those 12 boys, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Gad, Zebulun, Dan, Asher, Joseph, Benjamin, Gad, Asher, Joseph, Benjamin, Dan, and Naphtali. He's going to have those 12 boys, have 13 children, have his daughter die by Leah. But he has these 12 boys by 4 different women. So now we know what happens in this situation. How Jacob now is going to receive that promise. Then we see in chapters 37 through chapter 50 of the book of Genesis. Genesis has 50 chapters in it. 37 through 50, Joseph. Now in chapter 38, this is very, very important. In chapter 38, there something happened. Remember, Abraham begat Isaac. Isaac begat Jacob. Jacob begat Judas and his brethren. Judas. Chapter 38, something happens. Judah was one of those 12 boys, was he not? Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Gad, Asher, Joseph, Benjamin, Dan, and Naphtali. Jacob's name was changed from Jacob to Israel, thus we refer to him those 12 tribes. But in Genesis chapter 38, something happened. There was a woman took off her widow's clothes, put on the clothing of a harlot, go down to the square with a kid of baby goat, and there was a relationship that was consummated. Why is this important? Didn't Judas already have some children? Did he or didn't he? Yes, he already had 3 boys. He had he had Onan, and Selah. He already had 3 boys. And God killed 2 of those boys right on the spot. They were so ungodly. He killed and Onan right on the spot. Well, hold it, wait a minute. How is the seed of one is going to get into this word? And Judas begat who? Genesis chapter, Matthew chapter 1. Abraham begat Isaac. Isaac begat Jacob. Jacob begat Judas and his brethren. That's Jacob's 12 boys. Judas and his brethren. And what is it? Perez and Zerah of Tamar. What did that take us? That takes us back to Genesis 38. Does it not? That takes us back to Genesis 38. Judah already had 3 boys. Already. They were so ungodly. But then after this relationship between Tamar and her what? Father-in-law, 2 twin boys was born. Perez and Zerah of Tamar. We see that, don't we? Perez and Zerah of Tamar. What happened in chapter 38? And then in chapter 49, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee. Judah is the lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stooped down. He couched as a lion. And as an old lion, who shall rouse him up? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come. And unto him shall the gathering of the people be. Genesis 49, 8 through 10. That is a direct prophecy of who class? Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. That's a direct prophecy of Jesus Christ. So now, when we're studying the genealogy of Jesus Christ, you got to put it in chapter 38, chapter 49, verses 8 through 10. You have to put that in there, and I parenthetically insert that because chapter 37, verses 1 through chapter 50, we oftentimes, and rightfully so, talk about Joseph, but we never emphasize Judah in that same section of scripture in chapter 38 and chapter 49. Because the promise was given to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Judah. Are we all together? I hope so. Now, let's continue in Matthew chapter 1. Look up the generation of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham beget Isaac. Isaac beget Jacob. Jacob beget Joseph. Judas and his brethren. Judas beget Perez and Zerah. We see that in the genealogy of Jesus. Perez beget Ezra, and Ezra beget Abraham. Abraham beget Aminadab. Aminadab beget Nice. Now, you would not find a lot of this. You're not going to find in the Old Testament. Because if I were to ask you, who was Rahab's husband? And give me the passage in the Old Testament where I can read that. Would you find it? Absolutely not. But I can find it in Jesus' genealogy. I can find it in the New. Now we see who Rahab was born. We see who Rahab, of course, was married to. Nice to get Rahab, Boaz of Rahab. Now we got David's great-great-grandmother, Rahab. Are you serious? Well, that's what the Bible says. Rahab beget Obed of Ruth. Obed beget Jesse. Jesse was the father of David. David beget Solomon. That was his boy. Of Bathsheba. Solomon beget Rehoboam. Rehoboam beget Abiah. Now that takes us into the kings. Because David and Solomon served 40 years. That's 120 years there. After that 120 years, you're going to have the next section is going to be 393 years, or 5 or 6 months. The southern kingdom lasted 136 years longer than the northern kingdom. Is that right? So you got those kings to the south. That first king to the south, after the nations were divided, was Rehoboam. Is that correct? Rehoboam, Abiah, Asa, Jehoshaphat, Jehoram, Ahaziah, Athaliah, Joash, Amaziah, Azariah, Jotham, Ahaz, Hezekiah, Manasseh, Amon, Josiah, Jehoahaz, Jehoiakim, Jehoiachin, and the last king in the south was a man by the name of Zedekiah. Hosea 13, hopefully we might miss that, I gave him a king in my hand, and I took him away in my wrath. You remember what happened to that last king? When we get on down into Jesus Christ's genealogy, the time they were carried away to Babylon, that's when all of that comes into play. Let's get down there. Let's get down there. There's a couple other things I need to point out for you. Let me see what I can look at here. In Matthew chapter 1, notice something here. So you have Solomon in verse 7. Then that begins all of those southern kings. Solomon, those 15 kings, well, those 19 plus one king, one usurper, as I've just named. Now, when we get to that next section about the time they were carried away to Babylon, remember, the northern kingdom went into Assyrian captivity in 722 BC, where their national identity came to a cease. All of those 19 kings in the north came to a cease. Those 19 kings, Jeroboam, Nadab, Baasha, Elam, Zimri, Ahaz, Ahaziah, Jehoram, Jehu, Joash, Amaziah, Azariah, Jotham, Ahaz, all of those kings, all 19 of them. You know what you're going to find directly behind 17 of their names and implied in the other two? Every one of them. They walked in the ways of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, which made Israel to sin. Jeroboam, Nadab, Baasha, Elam, Zimri, Ahaz, Ahaziah, Jehoram, Jehu, Jehoahaz, Joash, Jeroboam the second, Zechariah, Shalom, Micaiah, Nahum, Peter. And then that last king in the north was a man by the name of Hoshea. Every one of them. But Jeroboam did in 1 Kings 12. What Jeroboam did in 1 Kings 12, when he changed the object of worship from God Almighty to 2 calves of gold. When he changed the place of worship from Jerusalem to Dan and Bethel. When he changed the time of worship from the 7th month to the 8th month on the 15th day. When he changed the priesthood of worship. None of those 18 kings tried to correct that situation. None of them. And what you're going to see behind their name, every one of them walked in the footsteps of Jeroboam. What he started in 1 Kings 12, some of them added some stuff to it. The son of Nebat, which made Israel a sin. And in 722, they went into Assyrian captivity. Sennacherib the 5th, all of those Assyrian kings. So now, some 136 years later, the southern kingdom is going to go into Babylonian captivity for how long did you say? 70 years. Now notice something in this genealogy here. Notice. In verse number 11. In verse number 11. Because what you're going to have here, you're going to have a colon and you're going to have a paragraph in your King James Version, in your American Standard, and I know depending upon the translations, things like that. But that is a big, big time in Jewish history. They're going into Babylonian captivity for a period of 70 years. Now, as they go into Babylonian captivity for a period of 70 years, after they come out of Babylonian captivity, after they were brought to Babylon, Jepaniah began Salatiel, and Salatiel begat Zerubbabel. Does that mean anything to you? Who was Zerubbabel? You remember after they come from Babylonian captivity, that was 3 returns. That was 3 returns from Babylonian captivity. The first return was under Zerubbabel. That first return was under Zerubbabel. The second return is going to be under Ezra the scribe. The third return is going to be under who? Nehemiah. Those are your three returns. 13 years later, it's going to be under Nehemiah. Zerubbabel, when he gets that first return under coming from Babylonian captivity, he comes to rebuild the temple. Now, when Ezra, under the second return, in 458 BC, he comes to do what? To restore the law. Ezra prepared his heart to seek the Lord, and do it, and teaching Israel statutes and judgments. Ezra 7 verse 10. So he comes to restore the law of God. 13 years later, in 445 BC, here comes Nehemiah. He comes to do what? To rebuild what? The walls. He comes to rebuild the walls. So those are your three returns from Babylonian captivity. Now, once that happens, let's look and see something here. Once that happened, after they were brought to Babylon, Jeconiah begins Lealtiel. So Lealtiel begins Zerubbabel. And we go all the way down, and we see all of those genealogies. Now, let's look at some other things about this genealogy. Did you not know that today, and we know the Jews still believes in the Old Testament only, still claiming to be waiting for the Messiah to come. They missed him 2018 years ago. He's been here. He's gone. When he comes back again, he's not coming back to be anybody's savior. He's coming back to be judge. But let's just think about something here. Did you not know that no Jew today, no Jew, could tell you from which tribe they came from? I wonder why.
God's good care of destroying.
Exactly right. Because in AD 70, when Jerusalem was destroyed, all of the genealogical records were burned up. Today, no Jew can tell you, I'm from the tribe of Gad, I'm from the tribe of Levi. Can't do it. No way to prove it. But the point of the matter, God so protected this situation to get Jesus Christ into the world, because if Jesus Christ could not have proven that he came down through a woman from the tribe of Judah, 2 Samuel 7, verses 1 through 14, no Jew would have ever obeyed the gospel of Jesus Christ on the day of Pentecost. And God protected that situation so that he got Jesus Christ into the world before Titus, the Roman emperor, destroyed Jerusalem. That's interesting to me. That is so, and you know why it's so interesting to me? Because most people think that Jerusalem was the original scripture place for God, but that's not so. God chose Shiloh. God chose Shiloh. But Shiloh became so wicked until he had to destroy Shiloh through divine discipline from the Philistines. After Shiloh was destroyed, because once those children of Israel, Deuteronomy 12, all through the book of Joshua, once those children of Israel crossed that Jordan River, Shiloh was the place. But Shiloh became so wicked until God renamed the place. Then he named Jerusalem. And if God did not protect Shiloh, because the ark of the covenant was there. God was not going to protect Jerusalem because the temple was there. God's people were so ungodly and so unappreciative to him that he destroyed Shiloh. Psalms 132, he named Jerusalem now. And Jerusalem became so wicked until he destroyed that. But he protected Jerusalem to get Jesus Christ into the world. Now Jesus Christ can prove his bloodline of Mary. He can prove his legal line of Joseph. Oh, that's beautiful. Let's look at something else there. Not only that, notice something else in there. Did you not notice women were mentioned in Jesus Christ's genealogy? How many? Who are they? Name me one. Rahab. Think about that. Rahab is mentioned in the genealogy of Jesus Christ. When you study the genealogy of Jesus, show me one time a woman is mentioned. Show me just one time. Because we know how the Jews treated women. God came to elevate woman back to her original position. Never a woman is mentioned. But look, Rahab. Do we not know that Rahab was not a Jew, was she? She was a Canaanitish Gentile. We all know her occupation. All of us know her occupation. Rahab mentioned in the genealogical records of Jesus Christ. Are you serious? Did you not know in Hebrews chapter 11, after Rahab had been proselytized into the Jewish religion, did you not know Rahab is in faith, hall of faith? Did you not know in James chapter 2, she stands right beside of the great patriarch Abraham in having obedient faith? Rahab, are you serious? Who else in there? Tamar. My, oh my, oh my. In Jesus Christ's genealogy, we already have shown what she did. Because that relationship with her and her father-in-law, wouldn't that be considered incestuous? I would, wouldn't you? In Jesus Christ's genealogy, Tamar, you got to be kidding me. Who else in there? Ruth. What do we know about her? Ruth was a despised Moabitess. Ruth was from Moab. Ruth was not a Jew. Ruth was from Moab. Are you serious? Somebody like Ruth in the genealogical records of Jesus Christ? That's three. Who else is in there? We know Mary, that little peasant girl from Nazareth. Solomon's mom, Bathsheba. We know what happened with Bathsheba and David. These 5 women. You know, the Bible is so impartial in exposing the greatest of them all. That's the reason why I knew it didn't come from man. It had to come from God. Because, you know, if I had been writing it, I wouldn't have put that in there. I would have put Sarah up in there, Hannah. I would have had Esther up in there. I wouldn't have put Tamar, you know, because people try to usually shield the world from the past and the miscomings of people. And there are 2 books in the Bible that has the penmanship of women. What are those 2 books? What are those 2 books, class? Esther and Ruth. Esther and who's using the teaching the class? I should have let him talk this morning. Esther and Ruth, the only 2 books by women. Ruth last of Rahab. Rahab begat Obed of Ruth. And Obed had a boy by the name of Jesse. And Jesse's youngest baby boy was a boy by the name of David. When we think about Joshua chapter 2, dealing with Rahab, when she hid those 2 spies, salvation was placed in her house. She believed because she had heard about what happened with Pharaoh, children of Israel crossing that Red Sea. Her faith was rewarded. Let me give you a couple more things here. How interesting it is that we see in this particular chapter. Notice the book of the generation of Jesus Christ, the son of David, son of Abraham. Abraham begat 39 times. You want to see that verb? Begat. 39. But look down at verse 16. How conspicuous, if I can use that term, I use it very carefully. And Jacob begat Joseph. That's the last beget. Now, Matthew, you've been consistent for 39 times. You've been consistent using this verb beget. And I want to know, Matthew, why did you leave that beget? Because beget is always the action of who? The male. The word begotten is passive. That's what's done on the who? The child. And what does the woman do? She gives birth. But 39 times, Matthew, you've been using this beget. Because all of these people coming into the world women does not have seed. Only the man. That's the reason why you see all of these fathers in here. All of these fathers. Beget 39 times. But then when you get down in verse 16, why Matthew did not put a beget between Joseph and Jesus? Are you trying to confuse me, Matthew? Why you do that? Because Joseph is not the father of this child. There's not but one person has something to do with bringing this child in the world. Down there. You remember Genesis 3:15? I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. Hold on, wait a minute. Am I misreading that? Between thy seed and her seed? Women don't have seed. What are you talking about, Moses? Between thy seed and her seed? Moses is telling us there's going to come a time in the historicity of mankind where a woman is going to have a child and man is not going to have anything to do with it. Is that right? So now we see in verse 16, and Jacob begat Joseph because he had them 12 orphans, the husband of Mary. Notice, of whom not beget Jesus, but of whom was born Jesus. of whom here? Because of whom is a prepositional phrase. Is that right? Of whom. That's a prepositional phrase. Whom is a pronoun. Now, there's a law of grammar we all know that every antecedent has to refer back to the name, noun, or pronoun. We all know that. But of whom not only is a pronoun, but it is feminine in gender, not masculine. It is feminine in gender. Now, if it's feminine in gender, and every antecedent has to refer back to name, who is the closest one in the verse that the of whom is talking about? Mary. Mary. So you can prove it not only in English, you can prove it. I know that's written in Greek. We see the Greek spelling there. Like you see Rahab, R-A-C-H-A-B instead of R-A-H-A-B, and all of those. But you can prove it in the language. You can prove it in, let me see, Spanish, Italian, certainly Greek, and all of those languages that have masculine, feminine, and neuter words. Masculine, feminine, and neuter words. Because this of whom right here, this of whom in verse number 16, this of whom, it certainly shows us it is feminine, not masculine. And it agrees with the gender. And since Jesus is born, since we don't have a big gap between Joseph and Mary, it comes to show us that there was only one person that had anything to do with having this child. I know the schools of high critics try their best to prove that Jesus was not born by a virgin, but he was. Mary brought Jesus into the world because Genesis 3:15 says there's going to come a time. There's going to be a woman that's going to have a seed. She's going to be a virgin. She's going to bring a child into the world. That happens. And as a result now, we got Jesus Christ. That's Jesus Christ's genealogy. I want to touch the heaven of God. Thank you so much for listening.